This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and a very warm welcome on this fine Friday, where we are normally looking into a forecast of Dreamland Premier League fixtures. However, we have to discuss what has gone on in the Europa League. Over this week, we're going to look at all the English teams playing in the Europa League. Chelsea, Spurs and United all taking place in their first leg battles. We're going to discuss. We are joined today by our regular and resident partner in crime. It's Michał. How are you, sir?
Hi. Well, a little bit disappointed by the Chelsea Legia result. I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But other than that, well, same stuff, different day, to put it delicately.
Nicely put. And we have got a special guest on with us today. It's Kieran, who's given us an insight into his, woes of being a Manchester United fan might be an appropriate way to say it, Kieran.
Descent into madness might be another.
I'm quite excited to have you on. Just before we started recording this pod, Kieran just dropped facts about the Europa and European football that might be coming up in the future. So I can't wait to get a bit more of an insight into that. But I thought we'd start the podcast today by going to you guys about the results for Chelsea and for Spurs. I'd like to kick it off with Chelsea. And I know, Michał, you covered this game quite comprehensively. So I'd love to get your view on how that played out first. I'm going to come straight to you.
Well, Legia Warsaw taking on Chelsea at home in the first leg of the Conference League quarterfinal. That really was a big occasion. Like, the stadium was packed, and actually in the preview that we made with Kuba Jeleński from the Polish, with the special guests, the Jakub Jeleński, the Polish journalist from Kanal Plus Poland, we predicted that Legia would have to be close, that they would need to give more space to Chelsea than usual, and they could just basically park the bus, in other words. Actually, when I was watching the game, I recalled that fun quote from Jose Mourinho. I do not remember, from his early Jose Mourinho days, when he said something in the lines of, there is one way of defending but playing some football, and then defend and defend and defend and fall down and wait for the medical department. I got those vibes from how Legia was performing in Warsaw, but come on, like, do you really blame them? Like, Chelsea was really outpowering them, at least second to none. And in the first half, that actually succeeded, because Legia came to the locker room like with a clean sheet. But in the second half, all it took was one sloppy pass, one sloppy defending by Legia, and George took advantage of that. Basically, the Legia goalkeeper just parred the ball away straight into the legs of George, and all he needed to do was just to put the ball into the empty net. And from there, it just was, full steam ahead for Chelsea. 2 goals scored, more, so that goes to the tally of 3-0 to Chelsea in the first leg. One positive being that the Polish goalkeeper Kacper Dobiasz saved a penalty for Chelsea. He guessed. He had a lot of luck, though, our goalkeeper there, to save that penalty. So some positives there. A lot of Legia fans feel disappointment that we did not go for something more, because we could have easily just exploited the fact that Chelsea was not performing super defensively. But I guess that's it. 3-0 to Chelsea. Second leg at Stamford Bridge. And I think Chelsea's in the semi-final. I would love to.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of questions on that,
Yes.
on that game, really. Do you feel that there was a huge gulf in class between not only Chelsea and Legia, but like the leagues, the Premier League and the leagues that is it comparable, or is there such a depth in class?
Big depth in class, really. And to be honest, I was really excited by the first minutes of Legia when it seemed as if they would go aggressively. They would be the aggressive go-getters. But then what it boiled down to was basically bad touch, bad first touch, bad control, and players like Cole Palmer, like Reece James, like Dewsbury Hall, who had a great game. Jadon Sancho, they were taking advantage of those sloppy touches from Legia midfielders. So basically, Legia gave the entire midfield up to Chelsea, and that just goes to show that Chelsea might be struggling in the Premier League, but when it comes to facing the opponent like Legia Warsaw from a good and prospering Polish league, they were completely outmatched, and the difference of class really showed that. And and then again, Legia guys, they really could do something more in that game, and that's why I'm slightly disappointed at the fact that they didn't even score that one lucky. They didn't slot that one lucky goal shot home. Sorry, I just my tongue kind of did a twist there.
I'd like to come to Kieran really quickly just on this, and I'm not trying to throw you here at all, pal. But from a Chelsea's point of view, if you're a Chelsea fan, I know you're not, but if you were a Chelsea fan, how do you think that Chelsea fans look at the UEFA Conference League? Do they think it is like an esteemed trophy that they need to win, or is it a hindrance almost to what they're doing in the league?
To be honest with you, it's the one that Chelsea have to win. It's you look at it from a point of view where United were in the Europa League. Mad that it was sort of 10 years ago we first entered the Europa League, but it was a trophy to be won, and now we have that in the cabinet. We have it twice now. For Chelsea fans, this is an opportunity to win the trophy, and they are massive favourites now. I mean, they probably were before at the group stages once they made it there. So for Chelsea, I'm not going to say this is going to be an easy road to it, but their fans should expect nothing less than to bring the Conference League home to Stamford Bridge.
And if there is any team in the Premier League who've got squad depth to manage both European football and league form, I would say that Chelsea probably are that team.
I would agree with you, and with UEFA competitions, you've got to fill your bench with homegrown players, either from your club or the nation itself. So it's a good opportunity for any Chelsea youngsters, any Chelsea graduates from the academy to make a name for themselves, just like Tyreek George did tonight. Now his name's going to be there forever in Chelsea. Well, I wouldn't say folklore just yet, but you never know. Games like that could decide futures.
Yeah, it's a good start, and it's also like, yeah, exactly. It gives you a name amongst the team and teammates to be able to maybe get a place in the team further down the line. I would like to move on now to Spurs, who also played tonight. They played Frankfurt at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. There were quite a shock start to the game. Spurs went 1-0 down, and I've seen the goal. I thought it was taken very well. But Pedro Porro also responded for Tottenham, and it had, and I say this with very, very little meaning, but it had Zola-esque style to his finish. And anyone who's seen like classic Zola finishes, you'll know exactly what I mean. It's a good result for Tottenham, but not the result they would have been wanting. Michael, I'll come back to you.
Yes. Well, basically, that I was actually expecting Tottenham to win over Eintracht pretty easily because of the fact that crucial players are now they're now back in the squad, and now someone would say that Ange Postecoglou would no longer have any reasons to complain anymore, even though that injury list is still pretty big. But either way, like it's still good to have Richarlison back. It's still good to have Van de Ven back, to have Pedro Porro, who scored the goal there. To be honest, I think Tottenham missed out on a great opportunity to build a great lead ahead of their trip to Germany, because in Germany it could be a bit difficult. But then again, I think when it's all said and done, Tottenham will be through to the semi-finals. That's my take of what's going to happen in the second leg.
Yeah, so you think they've got enough firepower to take them over in the second leg to get them through? What about you, Kieran? What's your opinion on the very inconsistent Tottenham Hotspur?
An opportunity missed, I'll be honest with you. You know, there were 14 shots in total in the entire game. I'm just having a look here. 10 of them went the way of Tottenham. I just think, you know, you've got third place in the Bundesliga right there in front of you. You've got to take advantage of it if they're looking a bit fragile. And now they're going to have to go to Frankfurt now on level pegging. You know, they have to go to Frankfurt's backyard and try and get a result. So it is going to be tough for Tottenham. If they had a chance to just put a stake in the heart, it was tonight. And now they're going to go next week and find it's going to be a tough one. Can they do it? Obviously, yes, they can, but they're going to find it much tougher now.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about things that find it tough, if you want to make your life a little bit easier, why don't you listen to our chosen advert, Bioniq?
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Do it. Get it right now. And we move into the reason why we've got Kieran with us today. It's to talk about Man United. If you can see or watching us, you can see the dismay in his face. Now, it's probably important to mention that the talking point before this game actually came off the pitch between Onana and Matic. There was a spark. Matic, I think, rightly said and told Onana where he fits in the history of Man United goalkeeping. And really sadly for Onana, he proved Matic right twice tonight. United conceded 2 goals after, in my opinion, and I'm not going to go into it too much because I do want Kieran to jump on this one. But they conceded 2 goals in a game that they played quite well in. They controlled the game. They managed attacks well defensively. There's a lot of positives that I want to try and get in early doors because I do understand they've gone away with dropping 2 points essentially at the end of the game. And it can only be down to the fault of goalkeeping errors. Yeah, it's disappointing. Xerxes' goal, he came on, made a difference. And yeah, I also thought on both goals, I did wanted to mention when I wrote down while I was watching it, that the second ball was quite pivotal. And United, for a long time, don't react well on the second ball. And both of those goals came from quick decisions made on the possession gained from the second ball. So I did want to highlight that as well. Give us your opinion on the game. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think, Matic would be proved so right, which is rather annoying. But it's sort of been underlining what a lot of United fans have been saying, and a lot of Premier League fans have been saying, that Onana isn't good enough. And I've been a staunch believer, Onana's not a typical Man United keeper. You think of the keepers we've had in the past, David De Gea is most recently, but you could like to Peter Schmeichel. Both of them very, very renowned for holding their ground and making themselves as big as possible. Onana's one of those, a bit like a Barthez, who's a sweeper keeper, who will come at you, who will try and close the space. Barthez did it because he was slightly shorter than an average goalkeeper. So he had to do something different. He had to be eccentric. But Onana's not making catches. The first goal is a bizarre one. You don't see any other Premier League team conceding those sort of goals. It's really annoying. It's a cross that comes in, nobody gets to it, and in the end it curls in rather harmlessly into the back of the net with Onana just misjudging the bounce. A weird one. And then the second goal to concede, it's a snapshot at him. But even a championship keeper is keeping a hold of it. But no, Onana just pushes it back into play, directly into the path of an attacker. And it's a lovely dink over him from Rayan Cherki, who I highlighted before the game on our podcast. It's a lovely chip over him. But Onana's cost us tonight. And that's that.
Yeah, and it's hard not to disagree with what you're saying. Sometimes when I've watched them in the past, I thought, well, the defense is so inconsistent. They're not managing with the aerial threat. You had Harry Maguire who struggled and was going through turbulent times on the pitch. But at the minute, there isn't that panic in front of him. It's being managed really well in front of him on the whole. I mean, there's elements where it could improve, but on the whole, it's fine. I just think it's so costly at the minute. My other point that I'd like to raise is, and Michał, you can maybe give us an insight onto what you think, is United centre forward problem. And although Joshua Zirkzee did score today, I'm yet to see what either of these footballers can bring as an out and out striker.
Uh, well, yeah, and it just goes back to those poor decisions of Man United board and the players that we've been bringing over the years, and not to mention the fact that we had a homegrown Marcus Rashford who was super underutilized, and you know what, I might get a lot of hate from maybe certain groups of Man United fans, but I will continue to reiterate this point over and over again, and I'm just going to shove it down everybody's throat. Marcus Rashford was the greatest thing that ever happened to this club, and the fact that we squandered it away based on some stupid spat over who's playing and who's not playing, what's the tactic and what's not the tactic, is just shameful. It just goes to show what kind of a cesspool Man United has become. That's it.
Yeah, and who do you leave blame with there? Like, is Ruben Amirim the problem? Is the club the problem? Is the culture of the club the problem?
Is the club because let's just look at the history of Man United, right? You've had so many great managers come and go to this club, and you could say that it's the owners. You could say that those were the other executives within the club. Somebody could even say that the players were bad. Of course, sure, some players were absolutely subpar, like case in point, Andre Onana. But I think just the way how this club is managed from top to bottom is just absolute shambles. And maybe I'm not inventing America here by saying that, but the fact remains true. As long as the head is rotten, the rest of the body and the rest of the organism will just fail. There is no way that this club will function properly without changing of the philosophy of managing the club.
And that's not changing anytime soon. When you're talking about a new stadium, 100,000 seat stadium, whilst making redundancies, it's so facetious. It's so short sighted. It's so tone deaf.
Yeah.
When will they learn? Apparently, never.
Never, absolutely never. Apparently, it's easier to throw millions and millions of pounds in the air and then pretend, and then be so pretentious. Oh, look, we got this player. Oh, we got this player. It's so easy to be so pretentious, and just to add more salt to the wound, add more insult to the injury. Man United spend more on transfers than Man City. Yes, they did. They absolutely did. And yet, look where Man City are, and look where we are. By we, I mean Man United. Absolute shambles. And that discussion about centre forward, how about we talk about how to reform the club, and then let's bring the discussion about the centre forward, because
I don't think we've got 3 hours for that.
Exactly.
I'm just about to ask Kieran another loaded question. If you could nullify it in like 60 seconds, that'd be amazing. So obviously there's issues at United. I'd argue that they will beat Lyon and go through to the semi-final at home.
Brave man.
What would you say that if you're Ruben Amirim and you're the person in charge of the team and the squad, what is your priority between now and the end of the season?
The Europa League, I think. To an extent, the Premier League. We want to wipe under the carpet what's been an embarrassing season. I started this season, and I started a live here at the Global Sports Podcast Network saying, look, last season, 8th place, that was the worst finish United have ever had in the modern Premier League era. Don't look at the table now, Kieran. Don't look at it now. So there's no chance of us improving on 8th. It's going to be our worst season. So let's wear it like a badge and move on from that. Europa League is a must. We have to at least put on a show, get to the final, and try and beat anyone in our way. And tonight was a great opportunity to take a 2-1 lead to Old Trafford in a time where, stoppage time seems to be our undoing, when, 10 years, 15 years ago, it was what we did best, just scoring in those added minutes and getting the game over the line. But it just seems less and less now. And unfortunately, it's more individual errors again and again. And it costs us time and time again. But I think Europa League has to be the priority. It's a trophy. We want to walk away with something here, even if it's one of our worst Premier League seasons. If we get away with a trophy, maybe the grass could be greener, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, United's priority, you've heard it here, is the Europa League. Our priority at the Global Sports Podcast Network is delivering fantastic podcasts on a daily basis. And that's why we choose a fantastic platform to do so. Zencastr is our chosen podcasting platform.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out as the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone, AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the description to learn more about Zencastr.
Yeah, check it out. We've got so many podcasts available to you on the Global Sports Podcast Network. One for every team: fantasy football, women's football. The list goes on. Go and check us out and give us a listen. But for now, I'd like to move into our final section. And it's wonderful to have you with us, Kieran, because normally it's me and Michael making up score lines and quite frankly getting them ridiculously wrong. However, that being said, we shall delve into this weekend's football, and we're going to pick out some of the games that we would like to talk about. I think there's two key talking points. The relegation battle, which isn't really a battle, but there is a conversation of which I would like to discuss with you both. And then the other part is European football. So first of all, let's have a look at the relegation battle. It obviously comprises of Southampton, who are down and out. We've got Leicester and Ipswich. Wolves are 12 points clear of the relegation zone. And my question is more about, I think it's a done deal, really. Ipswich and Leicester will inevitably go down. But my question for Michael first is the gap between teams coming into the Premier League and surviving becoming too wide? And what is the key? What do you think, in your opinion, are the key problems there?
I think that is a difficult question for me to answer, really, because every single team is pretty unique coming into from Champions League to Premier League, and they've got their own sort of problems. They've got their own sort of opportunities, really. Somebody would even argue that when you look at the Championship is no other second division, just like anywhere else in Europe. I mean, Championship could still be competitive, and Leeds United could tell you about this. Leicester could tell you about this. And let's not forget that we're talking about, for example, just looking at as Leicester as an example, those guys, right before they won the Premier League title, they nearly avoided relegation, nearly. But all it took is just for some organizational changes for Claudio Ranieri to get a grip, and lo and behold, Leicester won the Championship. So I do not think the problem lies within some depth or like the class difference. Perhaps, Kieran, you're gonna present some counter argument to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. The disparity between the prize money and the TV money between the Premier League and the Championship is just leagues apart, absolute leagues apart. I think when it comes to it, you've got, I think it's the second season in a row where pretty much the three that got promoted are going to go straight down. It's not always the case in point, but it's becoming more and more so. But I honestly think some teams are here to build, because they'll get the parachute payments. Obviously, they get the Premier League revenue or the TV revenue come in from being in the top flight for a season. They'll drop down to the Championship, but they'll have that parachute payment for the next, I think it's 3 years, which less and less, but it's still pretty good. it's still a pretty good deal for making it to the Premier League. And it's almost like you've got those teams that get promoted that sign good players, a decent players for the Premier League, but who would absolutely tear it up in the Championship. And what you'll create is sort of a similar scenario to what you might be seeing in the Championship, where you've got the sort of the yo-yo teams, if you want to call them, that have the parachute payments that are going to keep coming up and down, up and down. It was such a breath of fresh air to see the likes of Ipswich return to the Premier League. You know, you had Luton Town, who have been in a little bit of a freefall since their appearance in the Premier League. But it's nice to see different teams in the Premier League, and that's happening less and less often. And I do feel that huge disparity between the earnings and the revenue between being a Premier League club and the Championship club are absolutely massive, and it's causing that problem.
Yeah, I think it'll continue, and I think the sad news is that essentially that relegation zone is kind of confirmed. Wolves are needing a maximum of 10 points from the remaining Premier League games, and that obviously changes if Leicester or Ipswich were to drop points as well, so that number would reduce. Wolves have got some tricky games, but I've said this all along. So even when it was a little bit closer a few weeks ago, the requirement is that Ipswich and Leicester can grind out results. And I think that they've let themselves down in games where they could potentially have found results. What's more interesting is the race for Europe, and it really is an area of the league now that is coming into its most competitive element, I would say. I'm buzzing that Nottingham Forest are still in third place and seemingly holding on to this with going through to the end of the season as they have done all season. I think what a fantastic job that is. I would like to come to Kieran just to explain as coherently as you possibly can what is happening with regard to the European places as we come to the end of the season.
So as we all know, the top four get Champions League football. But with the new system, the new sort of Swiss League style, there's 2 extra spots that can be won. Now, this is calculated by how well each nation does in Europe. So all the teams, all their coefficient points, which is how many points they get for drawing and for winning, which is sort of your coefficient basis. And that's divided by how many teams are in Europe. Now, England as a nation have already secured one of those extra spots. So now 1 to 5 in the league will now be Champions League. That bumps Europa League down to 6th place. That'll bump Conference League down to 7th place, with the other nation still to be decided. So your top 5 will now get Champions League, which means Newcastle are in that spot, Manchester City in the Europa League spot, and Villa in the Conference League spot. That all is dependent as well on where the likes of Newcastle finished. They're currently 5th place, so they're currently in that Champions League spot. So they're the League Cup winners, so they have their Conference League spot. If they get a higher European competition, their Conference League spot goes down to the next spot in the league, and that's so on and so forth for the rest of the European competitions. It's a little bit of a minefield to negotiate through. I may not have even got it 100% right, but I hope we're close to the target.
I think you've absolutely nailed that. We need advice like this regularly, especially for me. I don't have a clue what is going on with these places. So, Michael, I'm going to ask you to nail down for me if you had to right now on 31 games for most teams apart from Newcastle. Who are you putting as your Champions League finishers? So 1 to 5.
1 to 5. So Liverpool, duh. Arsenal, also duh. So I've got 3 places left. And just purely judging by the difficulty of opponents, because the average position of opponents for Nottingham Forest, for example, is 13th, and for the Chelsea is 9th. Newcastle, for example, 9.88. Like, okay, that's just pure statistics. But looking purely on that, I think that Nottingham Forest will be among those teams, although their form is far from perfect as of late. Has been far from perfect as of late. So Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Newcastle, and Nottingham Forest, because if by some miracle Man City manages to secure Champions League football after such a horrendous season they had, the game is gone, as Louis would say after the quiz.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Kieran, can you fill in the rest of the spots for us? So, the Europa and Conference, who would you feel that could have potential to get in those spots?
I do see Newcastle. I think they've got the game in hand at the moment, and they're still buoyed by their success. 4 wins in the last 5. I'm looking at City's recent form. It's 2 wins in 5, a defeat in that 5 as well. And I look at Villa, who are in good form. I think Villa have a great chance of sneaking their way in there to either a Conference League spot or your Europa League spot. I don't see Man City dropping out, but it's going to be so tough between them. I mean, you're talking Chelsea in 4th, down to Villa in 7th, covered by 2 points at the closing stages. Why not? Let's go different. I'll go. What did we say? Newcastle 5th. So I'll go Villa 6th. And City 7th. Why not?
Yes.
That's fair. That's fair.
I love the sound of it. Absolutely. And I'm going to come to each of you in a second and ask, just to wrap up this episode, to pick one game from the weekend. I'm going to go first. So obviously if I choose yours, tough, you're going to have to find another one. But I'm going to kick it off with City Palace. I think both of these teams at the minute have played quite well. I do feel that City have to show a bit of consistency towards the running to have a chance of getting European football and prospective Champions League football if they dream of that. Palace are on the back of, they're undefeated in 6. Good run of form. I feel that it's got the potential to be quite an open game, and the fact that Palace are like City's bogey team at the Etihad. Andros Townsend's absolute screamer. It goes back all the way to when he was playing. So yeah, that's my pick of the bunch. Michael, share with us.
I'm gonna go for Nottingham Forest taking on Everton. For me, that's how I feel as the outsider from this discussion between Nottingham Forest fans and Everton fans here. But I think that for Forest, they're currently placed 3rd. It's high time they started playing like a team from top 3. And it is possible with them because they've shown this season many times, 17 victories this season in the Premier League, that they know how to play football. Nuno Espirito Santo has shown how Nottingham Forest can be great at defending. I really hope to see Nottingham Forest pulling it back after this defeat at the Villa Park. So that's going to be the pick. That's going to be the one to watch for me. Forest Everton.
Wonderful. And to conclude, the Premier League weekend for us, Kieran, our wonderful guest from the Man United. Is it the Man United podcast? Am I getting that right?
It is. Yes,
absolutely.
It is.
From the Man United podcast. Who are you going to go with?
Well, right at the end of the game week, I'm going to go for Bournemouth-Fulham. These are 2 teams that, with the coefficients, and now we've got an extra Champions League spot, it's going to bump down the table. We could have up to 8, maybe even 9 teams playing for Europe. If Chelsea are very successful in the Conference League, if we do have Arsenal making it all the way to the Champions League final and winning it, who knows what could happen. So those opportunities for getting into Europe in league placings are there for the taking. And Fulham in 8th and Bournemouth in 10th are some of the favourites in there, with Brighton in there as well. The winner of that match is going to put themselves in prime position to just sneak through and take some European competition football for next season. It's a must win. It's a must win game for both sides if they want that to happen. And that's your Monday Night Football.
Especially with Bournemouth's form. Sorry.
Yeah, without doubt. I think we've wrapped up our forecast for the weekend. We are in dismay as United fans. Will continue to be for the rest of the 2024-25 season, but we shall continue to put out podcasts with a smile on our face and look forward to the weekend's fixtures ahead. It's been an absolute privilege having you on with us, Kieran. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
As always, it's an absolute pleasure from me to be on here with you. And until next time, we will find out how well we know football and the Premier League when we do our Monday review. See you very soon. All the best from the Daily English Premier League podcast.
Every club, every Global Sports Podcast Network.